Hey investor friends, I'm Michelle Markey and 'tis tax season, and I figured I'd bring some levity to this rather dry subject and talk about my experiences and my approach to filing my taxes, and also what I try to do with my tax refund. And back in the day, my parents' tax accountant filed this tax return booklet, and nowadays I like to shop around for online processes that make it easy, whether it's TaxAct, TurboTax, HR Block, or one of the many commodity vendors that process your taxes online. And I think that's a pretty simplified and easy process, and I think filing taxes has come a long way. And just remember, I'm just some person on the internet, and this is not tax advice or recommendation, so take what I'm going to say as something that's meant for education and entertainment purposes, and I look forward to sharing what I've learned in this journey. If you're like me and grew up in the 90s, you'll probably remember this mail time rhyming song from the kids show Blue's Clues that I've adapted to tax season. And here's tax time, it never fails. It makes me wanna open mail. When it comes, I wanna yell, tax filing is hell. And I've also adapted the peanut butter jelly time song to tax season. So tax refund and tax file time, tax refund and tax file time. And I know that's probably gonna get annoying, but if I made you smile or laugh, I hope you can please like and subscribe to my video and YouTube channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks. As tax time draws near, I try to start preparing myself for what I'm gonna need to do to properly file my tax returns, and if I'm so lucky, get a tax refund. And one of the things that I like to start doing by the end of a calendar tax year is I look at my last paycheck from my job, and I try to start calculating what tax bracket I'm in. And if you check out the IRS sources and many other internet sources, you can usually find a tax bracket chart, and I've also created one here that I'd like to show you. And it helps to kind of figure out how much taxes you think you should have paid throughout the tax season. And depending on where you might fall in the tax bracket, it doesn't necessarily mean that you pay up to the limit. If you are within, say, the 24% tax bracket, doesn't necessarily mean you pay that entire amount of taxes. It's only if you are at the upper end of that limit. But I think it's helpful to kind of know where you stand and to think about, did my job withhold enough of my federal and state taxes and the other kinds of taxes that usually get deducted from payroll? So I like to keep this chart in mind as I'm starting to get ready to file my taxes. After that exercise, I try to play around with some online calculators that help give me an idea of how much taxes I'll either owe or how much I could get back in a refund. And one of them is this handy dandy IRS Tax Withholding Estimator, which I feel like a crude version of this used to exist, but I feel like they've made it a lot better lately. And I enjoy that it's so straightforward and easy to answer. And although it asks you a bunch of questions about what your wages were and how much you expect your taxes and contributions will be, and if you think you qualify for some tax credits, I think it's a helpful place to start so you can get a preliminary idea of where you might stand as you're getting ready to file your taxes. After that, I try to shop around for whatever online tax processor is a combination of the cheapest and can file the kinds of forms that I'm looking to file. So I compare different offerings, and I've even in the past experimented with entering my tax filing information in two of these tax processing websites just to see if I liked the process and also to see if it led to the kinds of results that I was expecting. Like, one of them had sort of confusing questions, and it didn't seem to be able to process one of my forms the way I thought should happen, and then the other one was able to. So it's helpful to double check what the pricing is and what kinds of tax forms and the types of questions that they ask to best guide you in filing your tax returns. I know filing taxes can be a little scary and confusing sometimes because sometimes people don't always spell out entirely all of the information that's needed to kind of get what's happening. And it can be sort of nightmarish trying to read through some of those IRS instructional booklets and kind of leaves you scratching your head and asking more questions than you had coming in. But one example I'd like to share is, let's say you are a single person earning a $75,000 gross salary and you're employed, and you will have a W-2 form that shows your wages and taxes withheld. So if you look at this example table I've put together, I walk through a little bit of what someone might expect if they were to file their taxes with this set of criteria. So this person has wages that amounted to $75,000, and let's say they had some more income in the form of interest and dividends in a 1099 INT and a 1099 DIV. So let's say they got another $500 there for a total pre-tax income of $75,500, and then they contributed to a 401k and as well as a health savings account. And so those two amounts added up to total non-taxable payroll deductions of $7,300. And then if you subtract that amount, $7,300 from $75,500, that gets you to an adjusted gross income of $68,200. Stay with me. And then if you look at how much federal income tax was withheld on that W-2 form, it amounted to $9,984, let's say. And then you go for the standard tax deduction because maybe itemizing is not really in the cards because you didn't have enough things to make it worthwhile to itemize. And then your final taxable income, which is your AGI minus deductions, ends up being $55,800. And then this is the amount from which you go back to that tax bracket chart and then you calculate how much your taxes are going to be. So most likely this would lead to having an approximate income tax in the year 2020 of $8,066, and from which the IRS would expect you to receive a federal tax refund of $1,918 because you overpaid from that initial amount that was withheld at the $9,984 figure. So with that, I mean, that turned out pretty well because you overpaid. I kind of feel like psychologically it's better if you don't underpay. Sort of nice to see a check in the mail, and although you kind of gave the government a little bit more money to begin with, at least you don't owe them more money come tax time, and I kind of like that. And then a couple of other notes just to keep in mind is try to figure out any and all tax credits you may be eligible for, such as if you're no longer a dependent and you've paid some of your own college or grad school tuition, and you may be eligible for some learning credits to that effect. And then also, if you are self-employed, starting with the 2020 tax year, the rules have changed a little bit such that the form to be filed if you're receiving non-employee compensation is a 1099 NEC as opposed to the 1099 MISC or MISC, as probably what some freelancers or self-employed folks were used to. Finally, I like to think of getting a tax refund as the metaphorical light at the end of the tax season tunnel. And here's what I would do if I got a tax refund, if I haven't already done these things in priority order, is number one, I would pay myself first by setting aside some money for a rainy day, also known as emergency fund. And number two, I'd pay off any debt with the highest interest rates first, like credit cards, student loans. And this is a little different than maybe what some personal finance gurus might suggest, because I'd rather chip away at things that I know are killing me with higher interest rates. Although if it makes you feel psychologically better, get rid of some of your smaller debt amounts so that you feel like you have a small win under your belt, and then keep chipping away at those bigger interest rate loans because they definitely are not fun. And then number three, I'd pay my rent, mortgage, utility, phone, water, internet bills, and so on. And that's called being current. So make sure that you are current with any and all of your bills. And number four, I'd contribute new tax year amounts to my retirement investment accounts like my Roth IRA and health savings account and so on. Number five, I'd park funds in an individual account to earn some interest while I wait for stocks of companies I'd like to buy to go on sale in the public stock market exchanges. And number six, ideally then I could buy some wonderful company stocks on sale, and then I'd hold these stocks forever. And then number 7, I'd invest in continuing my education and contribute to people and causes I care about. So those are some of my ideas of what I do with a tax refund, and I hope that some of this was entertaining and educational for you to learn. And I wish you well when you file your taxes this year. And till next time,